Today's episode is with Behnaz Karimi.
The traditional idea of the ransomware was, the locking files and demanding Bitcoin. Don't even rely on encryption anymore, right? Instead of shutting down a system, they still sensitive.
Do you think AI has any role to play here? Like, does ransomware affect AI systems as well?
It's not just about someone getting access. Attackers can manipulate outputs, extract sensitive information, or even inject malicious content through those systems. And right now, with the leveraging AI, I would say 72 hours specifically, or less than, they can wait, and long enough to clear your anomaly detection.
Is it because users are not that well prepared or suited to analyze the models? They just take, let's say, if there are, what kind of system components have to be compromised for a successful AI ransomware attack?
Let me keep it this simple, right? Because I don't want to go through to the whole of the details, right?
Hi everyone, I'm Purushottam and thanks for tuning into ScaleToZero podcast. Today's episode is with Behnaz Karimi. She's a cybersecurity engineer and independent researcher. She focuses a lot on ransomware and agentic systems. She's founder of Tremorina and co-lead of OWASP AI Exchange, and she specializes in AI security with over 14 years of global experience in cybersecurity. Thank you so much, Behnaz, for joining today with me.
Yeah, thank you so much, Pro, for introduction, and hi everyone, and thank you so much for invitation. I'm really happy to be here today.
Same here. Uh, Before we dive into some of the security areas, we generally ask this question to all of our guests, and we get very unique answers from this. So, what does a day in your life look like?
So my daily life, it's look like that every day I'm trying to update myself actually about new technology and about everything. And so basically, as you know, that I'm founder of Termorina, so my life is divided into two different dimensions, I would say, in a neuroscience and cybersecurity. So every day I try to find out a new technology and search about I would say, new researches regarding to the ransomware attack, because I would say this is a very important topic and that would be actually more complex in future. And on the other hand, one of my part of the job as a co-lead in OWASP AI Exchange is working and talking with different people from the founders, co-founders, and investors and security engineers, and I really enjoyed it. So basically, this is the whole of the things that happening right now in my life.
Awesome. So, on one hand, you are learning new things and what are new ransomware attacks? How does the world stay safe? And then you are working with founders and engineers to sort of share that knowledge so that they can utilize that information and build secure
Exactly.
systems.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
amazing.
Exactly.
That's amazing. And that aligns really well with the topic that we have today, right? Which is like securing AI systems against ransomware. Can
Yep.
we use threat modeling, or what are some of the real world controls around it? So let's dive in. So the ransomware has been one of the prevalent attacks to organizations since decades, right?
Right.
In 2026, I'm sure ransomware is no longer just about encrypting files on a server.
Right.
What have
Right.
you seen? Like, what is one key element that you have seen which has changed, let's say today, comparing it with, let's say, 10 years ago or 5 years ago?
Okay, yeah, absolutely. You're right about the change. So the traditional idea of the ransomware was, the locking files and demanding Bitcoin. That's really becoming outdated right now, right? If you look at the 2025 and 2026, ransomware has evolved quite a bit, right? It's not much more about actually, it's much more about the multi-layered extortion, more advanced tactics, often even AI-driven ransomware. And there is a clear shift towards simply stealing data instead of encrypting, right? So I would
Mm,
say, in fact, by 2026, a lot of groups don't even rely on encryption anymore, right? Instead of shutting down a system, they steal sensitive data and then apply pressure on the other ways. For example, legal pressure, compliance issues, reputational damage. All while the company is technically still operating, right? So even if you have a strong backups, you are not really safe. And I don't want to go to that topic regarding to the insurance issues and all of the things that are happening after that then attack happens and incident response right now. But on the top of that, attackers are getting more aggressive. If you search and look at right now what's happening with the ransomware attacks, so it's not just about the systems anymore right now. They might launch DDoS attacks or even reach out directly to customers, patients, or businesses partners to increase their pressure. Some groups even go
mm,
as far as threatening to report companies to regulators. And another an important big shift, which is I'm seeing, is what you can could call it a once too many attack model, right?
mm.
Instead of targeting one company, attackers go after a managed service provider, and through that they can hit thousands of the organizations at once. And if you compare that to, say, 5 years ago, around 2021, I would say, ransomware was much simpler. Files got encrypted, a ransom was demanded, and sometimes you'd get your data back after paying, but it wasn't any guarantee that they do not attack again you or they do not sell, for example, your vulnerabilities on the dark web, right? So today, encryption, I would say, is almost secondary. And finally, um, there is a human factor that's becoming more important. Ransomware groups are increasingly recording insider attackers, right? And so overall, ransomware today isn't just a technical problem, I would say. It's really becoming a broader social and organizational threat. This is that what I'm thinking about it.
That's quite a shift from yeah, I remember reading about ransomware and all 5 years ago, where it was all about that you see a screen where it says that, hey, your data is all encrypted. If you want this to be decrypted, then you pay us and then we'll do it. But now it looks like with there is a lot of focus on data, there is a lot of focus. MSP is something that I had never thought about, like going through the MSP providers, because yeah, that gives you access to a lot of customers indirectly in
Right.
a way, right? Wow, that's a new way. Do you think it AI has anything, any role to play here? Like, does ransomware affect AI systems as well?
So basically, the answer would be yeah. Answer is definitely, and actually it goes in both directions. So I would say that AI systems can be affected from ransomware attack, and we can use or leveraging AI to do a
Mhm.
ransomware attack, right? On again on AI systems or in IT systems, right? And so AI actually is becoming a target itself, right? Attacking AI system. So it's not just about someone getting access. Attackers can manipulate outputs, extract sensitive information, or even inject malicious content through those systems. On the other hand, right now, as I mentioned, leveraging AI to do attack, AI is also is becoming a weapon. Attackers can starting to use what we call, I would say, agentic AI that right now that I'm working on it. Basically, the agentic AI that we know about it, autonomous system that can make decisions on their own. It depends on the autonomy level, right? So
Mhm.
autonomous attackers can automate and scale their attacks. And we are already seeing early sign of this, right? For example, the AI powered ransomware attack prompt like, which uses AI models to dynamically generate malicious script across different operating systems. So more broadly, ransomware is becoming more autonomous. AI is being used to automate exploitation, analyze stolen data, and even handle part of the ransom negotiation. And looking ahead, this is likely to accelerate. And in future, even by, I would say this year, right, 2026, we could see fully autonomous ransomware pipelines. I would say this is my expectation that we will see it. And meaning even small groups or individual attackers could launch large scale attacks at the level we really haven't seen before. And if you follow the ransomware's news regarding to the new groups that they are coming to the market, you can see they are increasingly, right? And this is something that I would say AI bring on the table for them. So this is, as I mentioned, that on the both side.
It sounds like the more autonomous AI becomes, it also becomes like it's also a tool that an attacker can use as well, right? They can also build autonomous attack systems. Like earlier, it used to happen that there were phishing campaigns, and they were
Exactly.
not that great. But with AI, you can generate phishing emails in the same tone as your CEO, right, based on what you have seen their behavior is, and then that sort of helps you, that gives credibility to your attack in a way, right? And it
Right.
relatively, it's easier to fall for it for employees in a way. What are, like, I'm curious now that today, what are some of the common patterns you see when it comes to ransomware attacks against AI systems? And I'll come to this next, that what do you anticipate happen? But yeah, let's start with what common patterns do you see when it comes to ransomware attacks against AI systems?
So I would say I can see a different. There are different patterns, right?
Okay.
And once you see it, you cannot unsee it, right? And there is that would be the three acts, right? Every time. So, and I would say the act one. This is a supply chain. Always, the attacker published a organized model on a public repository. It passes your
Hmm.
benchmarks, and your team pulls it in. Nobody flags it because it was engineered to stay dominate during testing. And that's not accidental. That's engineered patience. And
Hmm.
the Act 2 persistence, it doesn't sit actually on a server waiting to be granted, right? Granted. It waves itself into your ML pipeline, right? Training
Hmm.
is pre-processing hooks, model checkpoints, and it waits. And right now, with the leveraging AI, I would say 72 hours specifically or less than they can wait and long enough to clear your anomaly detection. That's not opportunistic crime, and that's APT behavior. And I would
Hmm.
say the three is detonation and surgical. Every model file gone, every checkpoint encrypted. Inference endpoint down. And the ransom node, it doesn't hit your inbox and knock knock. This is this is ransomware node. So it surfaces through your own API. I would say error responses, your own dashboard. The AI delivers its own extortion message. And finally, the very scary part, recovery, it isn't actually restore from backup. It's not gonna working like that. It's full pipeline, reconstruction, complete retraining from scratch. And I would say days or maybe months, not hours. And every transaction in that window is, I would say, at risk. And supply chain infiltration, pipeline persistence, surgical detonation, each stage exploiting something uniquely AI, right? And traditional security tools, I would say, weren't built to see this coming. And this is exactly the gap that right now I'm working on it and try to actually improve and raise awareness about it for the different companies.
Wow, that's like the one thing that stood out from what you said is the persistence, right? That
Yeah.
the attackers are not like the moment you download the model, they are not starting the attack. rather they are waiting so that if there are any anomalies detection systems or any systems which is detecting patterns or something like that, it can't detect because there were no activity in, let's say, 72 hours or something like that, and you cannot correlate, right, what exactly happened, and that sort of gives you an edge. Like, there are several model repositories, right? Like, you can go to Hugging Face and download a model, or you can
Exactly.
go to Olama and download a model. And if you do not do enough security analysis of the models, that means you will fall prey to these things, right?
Right.
These attacks. That's very sophisticated. uh, Now the I'm trying to think in which direction I want to go. Is it because users are not that well prepared or well um suited to analyze the models? They just take, let's say, if there are many, like when you go to Hugging Face, right, it says how many downloads there has been, and you fall prey to that and you download a model which is of attackers, or attackers are sophisticated, or is it both? Like, why do you think it is happening?
Both sides. But I
Okay.
want to say that that is the fault of the, for example, the users or engineers or something like that.
Okay.
Um, they were underprepared, right? For example, when you are talking about the Hugging Face that people go there and download it, they have to be prepared that maybe the model is malicious. They have to think about it. When you wanted to bring a model on your production, the expectation would be that before bringing the model on production level, you have to test the model, right? At least test on the test environment to find out any malicious behavior. So the governance frameworks, the integrity monitoring, the supply chain controls for AI artifacts, they are still being written, right? You cannot fault a team or, for example, that they are, for example, wrong for a missing controls that I would say didn't exist yet, right? So, but the attackers, geniusly, they are sophisticated, embedding malicious logic that survives your entire validation process, right?
Hmm.
Engineered on your testing workflow, dominate for 72 hours. That's not a lucky phishing email, I would say. That's the APT level patience and precision. And defenders, it's very important that defenders be prepared for that. Right now the defenders, the gap is between defenders and the attackers, right? Attackers, they can do attacks, specifically for the ransomware, without any boundaries, right? They have the resources and they are not worried about it, that for example someone tell them that okay, you are not allowed to do these things, right? And but for example, for defenders, if the situation is not like that, and this is the gaps between the capability of the defenders and capability of the attackers. That's actually the defenders. They must be like attackers, right? So at that stage, we can see that okay, they have the anything that they want, and so the attackers did the attack, so defenders couldn't actually stop the attack. That combination is exactly, I would say, why this threat category is so dangerous right now, and this is the gap, and we have to close this gap.
You brought up a very good point. Now, like when like prior to AI, like this is still an issue though with open source software, right? Like, let's say you are writing a Java program, you see you go to Maven repository and you see that there is a package, and you just download and start using it, and you move it to
Mhm.
production, right? And
Mhm.
over the years, we have defined processes where in the CI pipeline itself, we do scanning of dependencies to see what vulnerabilities we are getting and things like that. And we are now sort of seeing something similar in the model world as well, right? Where you should not just download any model. Maybe there should be some, as you mentioned, some testing, or you look at the AI bomb to see what are some of the
Mhm.
issues that you might inherit from the model.
Right.
Um, and maybe take action before it goes to production, like as you highlighted, right? You cannot just take any model from, let's say, Hugging Face and start training with it and then go to production without doing any analysis on it, security analysis
Right.
on it. um, Before we go to maybe the remediation side of things, one of the questions that a common friend of ours has asked, like Yuvraj has asked, what kind of system components have to be compromised for a successful AI ransomware attack?
Um, Let me keep it this simple, right? Because I don't want to go through to the whole of the details, right? So attackers usually target two layers, right? The first layer is your AI assets directly, right? That
Mm,
includes your model, your data sets, your pipeline, your prompts, basically everything that make your AI work. If that gets corrupted or logged, your AI stops working. And you know that what happens when we are talking about the international companies that they are working that with the different countries and they are using agentic, right? And you know what will happening. And the second, the underlying IT infrastructure, things like cloud systems, CI/CD pipeline, credentials, and dependencies. And this is the key that attackers often don't go after AI directly, right? And they breaking through the normal IT weaknesses, then move into your AI system. And here's the
mm,
tricky part. The malicious code often stay hidden for a while before doing anything. And this is one of the point that every time when an incident happen with the ransomware attack, before any restore, you have to be sure that your system is still in a safe mode. What does it mean? It means that attacker maybe would be there, for example, for 6 months, attacker is on in your network and you didn't realize it, even your firewalls, your antiviruses. And so before restoration, you have to be sure that your model is a clean, your model is a safe. So by the time you notice the attacker may have already been inside your systems for the days, but you didn't realize it. So this is that the components that will be compromised for successful AI attack, which means that I would say the whole of the AI components from artifacts, data sets, and anything.
I guess there is not a single entry point. There are multiple entry points, and you have to sort of uh, secure every single entry point. It's not just
Mhm.
about that you secured your model, you are all good. You have to also think about the prompts, the pipeline, the infrastructure, every layer in a way, right?
Yes, yes.
So you have worked with large organizations and you have built like massive global digital ecosystems. What have you seen is the most overlooked entry point? Like out of all of the entry points that you listed, what is mostly ignored out of them?
Honestly, it's not what most security teams are waiting for, watching for, right? Um, Everyone's focused on the perimeter, firewalls, endpoint detection, instruction systems. And attackers are just walking straight past all of it through the AI supply chain. And what actually try to talk about it very specific is about that the most dangerous entry point in an AI integrated enterprises when we are talking about AI system is the model repository, public repositories, third party
Hmm.
pre-trained model, ML framework dependencies, and your team, as I mentioned, that pulls in a model during a routine optimization cycle. It passes benchmarks and it looks legitimate. It performs well. And the embedded inside is it malicious logic, and that sits completely dormant during your entire validation process. And supply chain and third party attacks are right now rapidly increasing. And yet
Mhm.
many, I would say, organizations still lack even basic AI specific security controls, right? Like integrity monitoring or proper validation of the model artifacts. And at the same time, the Gen AI prompt inference itself has become a serious risk surface with frequent cases of sensitive data exposure across organization. And I would say this is not a niche issue, right? This is a systematic vulnerability that's happening in plain sight and every
Mhm.
single day. And we have to be worried about and we have to be prepared for that, especially when we are talking about using AI system in healthcare and finance.
Mhm. Yeah. So we hear about ransomware attacks. Feels like every single week, some major organization gets impacted because how they are using AI systems, how attackers are leveraging. Like one of the things you mentioned multiple times so far is like the persistence that these AI ransomware attacks are. Like they just sit silent for days to go undetected and then start the attack. Now, when it comes to maybe bigger organizations, you might have resources to sort of secure every single entry point and make sure that your pipeline are not impacted, your prompts, your model,
Mhm.
all of that. Uh, does do you see a lot of ransomware attacks happening on small or mid-size organizations as well, or like small and mid-sized organizations can say that yeah, we will not get attacked because we don't have maybe enough value for attackers? Like, how do you see it?
No, answer is no. if
Okay.
if we let's consider a simple example about the tradition. I would say the traditional one when I do not mention leveraging AI to do ransomware attack.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if you search it and if you find the if you can find the information, there are many organizations that they are not famous, then they are not rich, but they are affected with the ransomware attack, and the attacker demand cryptocurrency from them,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they were under pressure that their information will be public on the internet. They were not worried about it, but their business was gone, right? But think about it right now, we have a small or mid-sized organizations that they are integrated AI on their system.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to be very direct about that because there is a dangerous myth that smaller organizations are somehow off the radar, right? But they are not. They are the target, right? And because they are start to integrate AI on their businesses, and they have data, right? Data is
Mm-hmm.
most valuable, actually, I would say, assets for any
Mm-hmm.
organization. So ransomware, think about ransomware as a service, has made it very easy to launch attacks. Even people with little or no technical skills can now rent powerful tools, right? Choose a target
Mm-hmm.
and carry out complex attacks. The kind of the attack that one targeted big, for example, banks, can now hit a small company as well, just as easily. And for small and mid-sized companies, it gets worse with AI. A large organization at least have security teams and proper controls, right? And they start to invest money on their security controls. But the smaller
Mm-hmm.
companies are adopting AI tools just as a fast, for example, like a third-party APIs, ChatGPT, Copilot, without having the same production in protection in a place. And
Mm-hmm.
um, I would say they often do not track where models come from, or, for example, monitor what's entering their system. And I would say to reduce the risk, AI models and data should be treated like critical security assets with proper validation and continuous monitoring. Continuous monitoring is very important because some companies and some engineers thinking about that the first monitoring would be enough. No, every single moment is very important. And even large companies struggle with this. Smaller ones usually do not do it at all, I would say. So attackers know this. They know, right?
Mm-hmm.
And instead of targeting one company, they can attack a service provider, as I mentioned at the first of
Yeah.
talking, that manage many companies at once. And that's exactly what happened that right now with many of the organizations. So for your answer directly, no, it's not easier for a smaller organization. It's actually more dangerous because attack tools are becoming widely accessible for attacker and much faster than, for example, defensive measures.
There are a couple of things that you mentioned which really uh, like makes a lot of sense. Like one is like you often think that when you're small, attackers do not have a lot to gain from you, right? Maybe that's why they will not attack you or something like that. But
Mhm.
because you are trying to move fast, you just download any random model, just see how many downloads there were, you just download it, you start using it. You do not do enough due diligence
Yeah.
around it, and you just embed it into your pipeline, whole pipeline, and that stays in the pipeline, and then attacker can wake up and start attacking. And there is less visibility for attacker also, right? Like they can go in stealth
Mhm.
and they can keep attacking smaller organizations as well. So thinking that smaller or mid-sized organizations are maybe not a focus of attackers is, I guess, is completely wrong. When it comes to AI systems, at the end of the day, if you are in healthcare, even though you are a smaller organization, you have access to key data. And as you
Mhm.
highlighted, right, that data is the key aspect that attackers, ransomware attackers, are trying to get to.
Yeah.
Maybe they are not focusing on compute or Bitcoin anymore. It's more around data, so that you can sell it in dark web and things like that and make a lot more money. So
Yeah.
it makes sense. Uh, Now, on this line, one of the questions that Yuvraj is asking is, how can organizations today understand where they stand against these ransomware attacks?
So I would say first, they have to themselves ask two simple questions. I try to keep it simple because the understanding the points is very important, right? So you have to ask simple questions, right? For example, can a normal IT attack reach our AI systems, right? And
Mhm.
if an AI component is compromised, can it affect the rest of our IT environment? And just thinking throughout this will actually relieve gaps most times haven't
Mm.
considered, right? And this is the first question that you have to ask yourself. And second one is that walk through your system step by step and be honest, right? Think like an attacker. Think liking an attacker is very important. And ask question, do we only use trusted models? Can models run code in our environment? And if something is compromised, can it spare? And do we have clean backups? I mentioned backups many times with the different strategies that the restore from backups and using backups, it do not give you this guarantee that you are safe. And
Mhm.
if you don't know the answer, that's already a red flag, I would say. And the third one is that you have to check your visibility. Do you actually know what models and I would say your ML libraries are running in production and where they come from? And if not, I would say that's a big supply chain risk. And finally, you can use existing security framework as a baseline and adapt them to the AI. As an example, there are a different security frameworks outside, right? And right now, I try to prepare a framework for the ransomware attack on AI systems that I wanted to publish it free for the companies, right? And they can go to that and they can find out where is their gap. And this is very important to help companies that improve their security posture regarding to the ransomware attack and specifically their resilience against ransomware attack, their resilience AI system. So the bottom line is simple, to be honest. AI systems are not just, I would say, the normal software systems. They are critical assets. Why? Because they have access to the data and they integrate it in your infrastructure. and attackers are already targeting them that way. So
Hmm.
what I've told, it was a basic questions that any people that have to ask themselves when they are working with the AI system and they wanted to secure them, and they wanted to see that they are resilient against AI ransomware on their IT systems or on their AI systems.
I loved how you sort of added step by step, right? Like first you see how are your AI systems reachable? What does your inventory look like? What external models, ML libraries are you using?
Mm,
And doing a detailed analysis and being honest with yourself, right? Like we often say that, yeah,
yeah.
I know that I downloaded a model from Hugging Face. That's all good because I have seen there are 10 million downloads of that Hugging Face model versus doing a thorough analysis whether it is secure or not. Like instead
Mhm.
of taking it on its face value, doing that analysis yourself, like taking those steps will give you that clarity whether you are really safe or you think you are safe in a way, right? um,
Exactly.
so let's say now I know, let's say, what are the entry points, what does my pipeline look like, and what does my like all the resources, AI system resources look like. Why do you think organizations are still not able to maybe secure them?
So I would say the first one, I think that there is a capability gap, right? Right now, most teams focus on traditional security controls, but they do not yet have a proper tool to monitor AI systems or validate what's coming into their pipelines, right? A lot of these frameworks are still evolving. Right now on the market,
Hmm.
there are different, I would say there are different tools that help you that, for example, that you monitor your model, check your agent and anything of that. But because of the increasing of that the many companies started to integrate AI onto their infrastructure, and as you mentioned, that they wanted to be growing fast, they do not consider the security that they are security controls, that they are very specific for AI systems, right? And this level, we are not talking about the traditional security controls. And the second one, I would say there is a visibility problem. AI systems are hard to fully understand, right? So for many people, when I'm talking with people, they tell me, okay, I cannot understand what's going on. So I cannot explain that all the mathematics that they are behind of that, right? But I try to give them some of the information, for example, for the agentics, for their autonomous level, how it goes, and so on. So they retrain automatically, relying on many dependencies and often lack clear baselines. You know, the baselines, the security baselines is very important. So when something goes wrong, it's very hard to detect early. You know what I mean? So, and the third one is governance. Governance hasn't catch up. Most organizations do not track where their models come from, as you know, we mentioned many times right now, right? Or property validate them. And even the way people use Gen AI through prompts can introduce, I would say, real data leakage risks. And put
Hmm.
together all of these things together, this is, I would say, this isn't a small issue. It's a border systematic risk. I would say that many organizations still don't fully see it. So I'm seeing that many companies started to, for example, integrate some of the agents and some of the AI, or integrate their infrastructure with the AI, but they didn't consider any security controls for them. So they try to put data there and they try to use it because they want to go to the market, or they wanted to improve their businesses. But I would say first security, second security, third security, and fourth, that would be that integration.
Okay, I see what you're like. I see the point, right? Like, it goes back to how many, like, how what type of governance you have put in place, what type of security controls you have in place, and it's some. I also see a relation with security culture of the organization as well, right? If as an
Right.
organization you want to move fast and that's your primary focus, then you would always be vulnerable to ransomware attacks, because your team, maybe you or your team, is just looking at how quickly I can build things, how quickly I can ship things, but you are not putting
Mhm.
enough guardrails so that whatever you are inheriting, either through models or libraries and things like that, you have done enough validation, security validation on those.
Right.
Uh, we have been speaking about ransomware attacks. uh, Now when it comes to when you are in, like, let's say your organization has been hit by a ransomware attack, you are doing incident response. uh,
Mhm.
what do you do? Like, I know that AI systems are complex, right? There are so many entry points. Not only you have to look at your infrastructure, you also have to look at your pipelines, data and prompts, models, all of that. um, how do you approach?
So there's a really good question, right? Because right now, many organization and consulting, they have a lot of the suggestion regarding to the how you can be safe after when a ransomware happen. But they are not, I would say I haven't seen any kind of these things for incident response plans for the AI systems that when they hit by a ransomware attack, right? And this is really good questions, and this is the one of the actually my research that I'm right now working on it. But as you know, it's very hard, and it challenged something many security teams actually, I assume. But the most of the time, the first one, isolate and eradicate, right? It is a good approach, I would say, is a good starting point. But
Mhm.
if you stop there with your AI system, it's not enough. That thinking about that point is very scary, that think about that whole of your, think about a healthcare company, right? That the many doctors, many nurses, they are using the AI systems for their patients, right? And that
Right, right.
suddenly it will be hit and stop. It's very scary. And in traditional ransomware, the process, I would say it was, as I mentioned first, that it was straightforward, right?
Mhm.
You isolate the infected system, remove the malware, restore from backup, and you go to the normal business, right?
Right.
What you are restoring is relatively simple. Files,
Mhm.
databases, configurations, and you can verify them and move on. It's
Mhm.
finished. But about AI system situation is very completely different. An AI model isn't just a file. It's built from millions of parameters shaped over time by training data. This is a very important point that always emphasizes about it. And this is where it gets tricky. Attackers do not just encrypt things. They can also, I would say, quietly damage the model itself. This is called
Mhm.
model poisoning. So at this point, your model might already be behaving incorrectly long before you even notice the attack, right? Think about the ungoverned outcome of your model. And
Mhm.
so, do you know that where the attacker came in? And do you know from which time point that, for example, your model started to produce the data that the most of the company they do not govern that their output. So that means when you finally isolate and clean the system, the real damage may have already happened and you may not even realize it. So
Mhm.
what should we do instead of that, right? For example, I told that, okay, the catastrophic will happen. So first, you cannot just restore and assume everything is fine, right? You need a way to verify your models. Things
Mhm.
like tracking where they come from and using techniques to confirm they haven't been changed. Without that, you're basically guessing. Second, your investigation has to go deeper than usual. It's not just about, for example, checking logs and network activity, right? This is the traditional one that we are doing for the ransomware attack on AI systems or any attack. You also
Hmm.
need to look at how the model was trained, what dependencies is used, and how it has been behaving over time. You are trying to rebuild the full history of that model. And the
Hmm.
third one, I would say this is the hard part. Um, if you are not fully confident the model is clean, you shouldn't restore it and you mustn't restore it. You should, I would say, retrain from scratch in a clean environment using trusted data because a model can look fine on the surface, but still behave in compromised ways that are hard to detect. So, for your question, I would say directly isolated and eradicated that we did or we are doing for the IT systems, it's not working after that for the AI systems, right? It helps you contain the problem, but uh, with AI system, recovery requires much deeper verification and analysis. Sometimes most current incident response processes aren't fully prepared for it. And this is again another gap, right? And another gap, the attackers know that, and attackers actually take advantage of.
Hmm. So, so there are a couple of things that you highlighted, which stood out for me at least. I think incident response pre-AI world was difficult already, and
Mhm.
now with the AI world, it has become even more complicated. I feel, and I empathize with the frontline security engineers who work on incident response because it's a complicated process now, right?
Right.
More importantly, like the example that you gave, where if the model itself is poisoned, that means you cannot just restore to a 1 week old model and you can start using it, right? You cannot do that. It's not just like
Mhm.
restoring a database and you are done. You might have to retrain the whole thing, which means losing a lot of money that you have already spent. You have to spend again, and it delays maybe your product launches and all of that, right? Like it has a lot of impact to the business. And the other thing that you highlighted, which I really liked, is around the output monitoring. Like, yeah, most organizations just look at what prompts are coming in. Like, how do we do prompt injection, security for prompt injection?
Mhm.
But what type of data is going out of my system? If you do not analyze, there is no way to find out if your model is poisoned or not. So, looking at the output, analyzing that, and then this sort of determining whether your model is partially poisoned or some other entry point is poisoned, so that you can only apply patch and move on versus completely retrain and start afresh in a way, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, it, like I can imagine the complexity
It's
that
very
it
hard.
brings to the incident response teams.
Exactly. This is very a high responsibility and I would say the high pressure on the team, to be honest. And the scary point is that you don't know at which time or when your model is
It start,
poisoned and your
yeah.
this is very scary. And when I'm thinking about the um, healthcare companies, when I'm thinking about the financial institutes or this type of the company is more scary. I
Hmm.
would say.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm trying to think, right? When I go to my doctor's office, my doctor always asks, "Are you comfortable me recording this conversation for future use or whatever? Like, are you comfortable in recording this
Yes.
conversation?" I often say, "Yeah, go ahead. That's absolutely fine." Now that I think about it, like what if the data, the model is poisoned? Now my data is also getting fed in, and my healthcare data might leak right out of it. So yeah, I can totally see the complexity that the whole AI systems bring, and how it helps the ransomware attackers in a way. So we started with, or like how you like what does your day look like, eh? You said you read a lot, you understand what's going on, and then you help founders and others to maybe build secure systems. That's where like you are a very active member of OWASP AI exchange, where you are sort of reshaping the security standardization for AI security.
Right.
Where does OWASP AI Exchange suggest that we start our risk mapping? Like, where do we do our risk analysis? How do we do it? What do you generally recommend?
So I would say that OWASP AI Exchange is one of the great framework for the AI security with more than 300 pages right now on the market. And we have a liaison partnership with the UAI Act. So it suggests I try to start keep it simple and start with the facts that AIX emphasizes on it. So start with one thing. Now, what AI you are using? Build an inventory of your tools and use cases. Then
Hmm.
you have to identify the risks that actually apply to you. Not everything, just what matters. And after that, assess how likely those risks are and what impact they could have, right? And we don't want to, for example, you don't want to think about all the scenario at the time. Right now, you have find your use case and identify the risk and assess that how likely those risks are. And after that, plug this into a simple structure like govern, understand, and manage. And most importantly, which I mentioned, that this isn't a one-time task continuously. You need to check every time. You need to keep reviewing risks as your AI systems evolve, right? Any changes that you are doing on your AI systems, you should again do this, these steps again. And this is continuously. And if you want the bare minimum, now what you have and understand the risks around it. And this is the very important point. And as I mentioned, continuously checking your system with any changes that you are doing on your system.
I like the framework that you shared, right? Like you look at your tools and the use cases that they are trying to solve. Because often we just say that, hey, I need a tool, and maybe you don't have a use case and you just start using it. Go
Right.
through your risks. What possible occurrence it might have, and what impact would it have? Like a very simple framework to follow to determine where to focus when it comes to security. So yeah, that's an amazing framework. Thank you for sharing that. I have
Absolutely.
one last question, and this question has come from Mariam. Is like, where do you see security technology in Germany, and the market for AI security in general in Europe looks like?
As I'm working with the global, I would say companies, and I'm working with the different founders and co-founders right now in OAS AI Exchange, I want to answer this question as a global answer, not directed to the Germany market. So
Okay.
what I'm seeing right now is many organizations started to integrate AI in their environment. They are
Hmm.
using, for example, some of them they are using to, for example, generate SQL code. And for example, some of them they are using that to prepare some information regarding to their data. And for example, they are using agents, for example, bring different sources for their users in the company, right? What I'm seeing that the market is growing and growing, but what I'm seeing here right now is that there are many gaps regarding to the through knowledge and what we are I would say what we are seeing. Um, what I mean with the true knowledge, I mean that, for example, you know what's going on with your AI system when something goes wrong. You know that the best practices, if you wanted to govern your AI systems. And for example, you have a very, I would say, knowledgeable leader on the top of your project that, for example,
Mm-hmm.
they can govern and they can help the engineers to follow the rules that are important against any
Mm-hmm.
attack that they are outside. And I would say it's acceptable that, for example, or I can completely understand that many companies they want to go to the market as soon as possible, but I do not recommend it that you do not have any security controls or security consideration in your, I would say, check lines when you wanted to using AR in your environment, or for example, you try to push data in your AI systems, or for example, do have a agent, and with this agent try to communicate with each other around the globe, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they can, I would say, I just wanted to add this point, they can communicate with each other to do a ransomware the agentic system. So if you are
Mm-hmm.
thinking like that, you try to bring the safety and security at the first place. But as a summarize, when I'm seeing the right now the market, the security is not considered right now at the first level, I would say. And in future, my expectation would be that people brings that on table more.
Yeah. So I do hope the same thing, because like we are also a security company, but we do, when we work with customers or partners, we hear that business comes first and security is second, and that often is the reason of the security attacks, right? Because you have not spent enough due diligence, or you do not have enough controls or governance in place to do some of the security, some of the basic security checks before you start using a model, or before pushing your code to production and things like that. So yeah, I hope so too, that in leaders would like have some controls in place before pushing AI systems to production.
Right, exactly. And the basic security controls, I would say, we are not talking about the very specific security controls that would be on a deep technical level. We are talking about the basic security controls, right? Because attackers, they know it. And so in future, if you wanted to pay, for example, to recover your data and lost your business, right? And for example, if you want to pay cryptocurrency to the attackers, right? This is better that right now at this place, you think as a company, you start and think about your security, because it's very important, because in future, your reputation, your name, and you lost all of them when some things happen, and most important, the data. And you think about it, 1 million of the users are outside there that they're using your system, and what would be happen. So instead of that paying for attackers in future, you can, for example, invest on the right now from deployment phase, from start the first steps, and secure your system. I would say this is the best strategy. And one point is that we cannot guarantee that, for example, we are 100% secure. For example, when I'm talking about the ransomware, we cannot guarantee and we cannot say that, okay, we are 100% secure against, for example, Akira ransomware, right? But at least I can say you that, okay, with these 75 security controls that you have in place, I would say maybe you have 72% secure or resilience against, for example, acute ransomware. Or for example, right now we
Mhm.
are seeing clean ransomware, right? Clean right now is take the jump, and this is the first. But yeah, this is that I'm talking about different people, different companies about it.
So yeah, like take a moment to analyze your security posture before you start running in a way, right? Like if you want to summarize. So yeah, absolutely. I hope that's the takeaway that our audience also gets out of this episode. That even though you want to move fast, we are rooting for you, but at least take a moment to analyze your security posture. Thank you so much, Behnaz, for the amazing conversation. Here are a few points which stood out for me. The first one is when it comes to AI ransomware attacks, there are many entry points that attackers exploit. It can be models, ML libraries, pipelines, datasets, prompts, and others. Each area should be paid pretty much equal attention when you are trying to secure your AI systems. The second part is when focusing on securing AI systems, organizations should focus on whether the AI system is reachable or not. Review each components like supply chain, pipelines, ML libraries, and do an honest review of them to see which area needs is the least secure and start from there. The last one is for security in general. uh, while trying to move fast and deploy new things to production, take a moment to analyze your AI systems for what are the tools you are using, what use cases are they solving, what are the risks associated with them, what are the chances of occurring a risk occurrence and the impact of it, and then based on that set basic controls and governance around it. Thank you. That brings us to the end of the podcast. But before I let you go, I have one last question. Do you have any learning recommendation for our audience?
Right. First, if they wanted to go to the ransomware topic regarding to the leveraging AI to do ransomware attack, or for example, ransomware attack on AI systems, um, you can read my last article about that published, and UV and I, we emphasizes all of the points on it. And I would say it's very valuable resource because we worked on it for almost more than a year, right? And on the other hand, I try to prepare some materials and I try to prepare some information regarding to that on my newsletter as well and my channel as well. But on the other hand, regarding to the security controls for AI systems, I highly recommend go to the OWASP AI exchange and read actually for example, AI bomb that it helps you that the basic security to understand the basic security controls. And on the other hand, if you follow my news regarding the specific security controls for AI system that helps you that you increase your resilience against ransomware attack, that helps you that, for example, you start your AI and improve the security of your AI system against ransomware attack.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. So, what we'll do is when we publish the episode, we'll add them to the show notes so that our audience can learn from these resources as well. Yeah. Thank you again, Behnaz, for joining today and for sharing the knowledge because there were quite a few things which I was not aware of around ransomware. How does it work? What do attackers focus on? What are entry points? So, yeah, thank you so much for taking the time and speaking with me today.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you too.
Thank you. And to our audience, thank you so much for watching. See you in the next episode. Thank you.